How you doing? This is Tangela Morris with Life on Purpose LLC, and welcome to our virtual workshop.
Hey y'all.
Hey y'all. Today we will be talking about the 4F's. And no, it's not any bad words. Well, some of them could be, but not that type of bad word. We're going to be talking about fear, failure, forgiveness, and
Faith.
there we go. So you can catch us here on youtube.com, Life on Purpose LLC. Let's get into our introductions. Soon as this slide decide to work. There we go. There we go. So let's start with our certified Christian life coach, Tiffany DeWalt.
Hey y'all, it's Tiffany. I hope everybody's having a wonderful time, a wonderful week this week. And we just want to thank y'all for joining us at
Thank you,
Life
guys.
on Purpose. Yes, for fear, failure, forgiveness, and faith.
Faith. Yes.
We got
Yes.
some things to do, y'all, in our world. And I just want to make sure that I am here to encourage you to, just
Coach
conquer
you.
these fears and coach you. That's a good one. I'm here to coach you on how to conquer these fears and how to recognize most things are just not what failure looks like. That's not what it is. And then on how to forgive and to have faith. So, hey, come on with us as we help you get this thing called life together.
Yes, yes, yes. And so, again, I am Tangela Morris, licensed professional counselor with Life on Purpose LLC. We've been at this thing for some time now. As of 2023, I think this is our second virtual workshop. So we're really excited. We have more to come. But for today, like Tiffany said, and like we said earlier, we'll be talking about 4 things that we're excited about talking about. So I'm going to take a mental health perspective and just kind of give some feedback and insight from that area. And we'll have an open discussion. You guys make sure you have pen and paper or some type of digital device, take some notes because we're going to have some reflection questions. And it's so important for you to dig into this topic with us if you really want to get something out of it.
And hey, who knows, you might have somebody in your life who needs some of these points. So make sure you write some things down just in case somebody needs you.
Exactly. So we're going to do our icebreaker. We're going to do virtual prizes. We're going to do 2 of them. They're going to be in the live chat. So make sure you are in the live chat specifically so you won't miss the chat questions. Then we're going to do our open discussion. We're going to do another virtual prize. We'll do some resources, Q&A, and we'll be out of here. So we'll be here roughly a little bit over an hour. And yeah, let's do it.
Let's get into this.
That's like the new saying now. Let's get into
Right, let's get into
Let's get
this. I'm still trying to figure out how I'm supposed to sound when I say that.
in.
I've heard some people, let's get into this.
Let's get
Let's
into
get
it.
into
Yeah,
this.
kind of like a warrior. It's like a warrior saying, like, let's get it. Let's get into it.
Let's
Let's
get
let's
it.
do it. Like, let's not no fear, just faith. Let's do it.
That's right. No fear, just faith. I like that.
Okay, so our icebreaker, and this is you can answer it. You guys can answer it in the live chat. Tiffany's going to answer it, and I'll give my perspective on it. If you could do anything and you knew you would not fail, what would you do?
What would I do? I had some time to ponder on this, and I said, I'm not the most practical person, so I think real deep. So I said that I would, if I could not fail, and I knew I could not fail, I would do whatever it was in my power to burst this bubble that is causing this stagflation in our nation. Stagflation in the nation. Stagflation in the nation. There is a housing bubble. People are losing jobs and businesses again, you guys. What else? Prices are going up on everything, and we just don't know what to do. Our country is trying to do something to either get us out of the inflation and push us into recession so we can move down and move back. We don't know what we're doing out here. So I would love to just burst that bubble if I could do that and know that I would not fail.
There we go. That's a good one. That's a good one. While you are over there being benevolent as you are and thinking about other people, I'm over here thinking about food. So here we go. What would I do if I knew I could not fail? It's probably eat anything that I wanted to eat. If I knew that I would not fail at it. And failure means like get sick or have a long-term illness as a result of it. So I would definitely turn a cookie into a vegetable.
Oh my
For
goodness.
sure. Without a shadow of a
Zucchini
doubt.
cookies.
Whatever it is, they will be growing
Cauliflower
from Mother
cookies.
Earth, and you could eat them in plenty. You get what I'm saying? Like it'll be like manna. Just eat it as much as you want. It is never ending because I won't be failing at it. I will just be eating
You won't be failing. Yeah,
it.
that's an interesting one. Some
Yeah.
vegetable cookies. Okay. I mean, that might be a thing out there now.
I think they try. They have those vegan cookies and things like that, or plant-based this and plant-based that. I want the regular cookie, but it just to be a vegetable instead of regular, that kind of thing. I don't want to make a vegetable cookie.
Okay. Well, I'll stick to bursting the stagflation we have here in the nation.
Okay.
You work on those vegan cookies.
Make sure you guys put in the chat, if you could do anything and you knew you would not fail, what would you do? Let us hear from you. We'll respond in the chat.
Can't wait to hear these answers.
Yes. Okay, virtual prize.
Woo-hoo.
Virtual prize. I don't know. The slide is going a little slow, but anyway, this is our virtual prize. We have a question for you, those of you who are participating, and you would answer it in the chat. And so today's topic is on the 4F's. What are those 4F's? Put them in the chat. First person put them in the chat will win a virtual prize. We are going to share what that prize is at the end of this workshop, and we'll make sure that we have your email address and get your prize to you.
I just love when you get the pop quiz. Who's been listening? The who's been listening prize.
And congratulations to the winner. Congratulations. What are the 4F's? We're going to be focusing on. Don't put the wrong F. You might get booted out of YouTube. What are the 4F's? Put them in the chat. What are we going to be working on? That's the first virtual prize. If you can answer that question and be the first one, you will win. I feel like I'm like a radio host.
Yeah, we got to start thinking
I
about
got a radio
podcast.
voice.
That podcast.
I think I got a new radio voice.
Yeah, you do have one. Just fluent over there too.
Watch out there now.
Talking without fear.
Watch out there now.
Talking without the fear of failure.
Without fear.
Talking with all that faith.
we get another chance to go. Let's get into it. Okay, so we're getting ready to talk about the 4F's: fear, failure, forgiveness, and faith. Hint, hint. I love these little.
You got those answers right there. You're the winner.
You're the winner. I love these little emojis that they put up, in representation of these 4 areas. So we get to say it. Let's get into it.
Let's get into this.
Okay. We're going to talk about fear first. I think this is a big one. Before we get into the discussion of just this one area, Tiffany, tell me just the first thing that comes to your mind when you think, okay, I'm getting ready to talk about fear, failure, forgiveness, and faith. What is the first thing that has come to your mind?
Fear, failure, forgiveness, and faith. First thing that comes to my mind, of course, is fear, because that's the first word. And fear of failure, fear of forgiveness, and then fear being a lack of faith. And I guess that's kind of how I look at it, and I intertwine all of those things, where if you fear, then you're destined for failure. And if failure is, something to fear, it's just, so it all kind of just intertwines itself with one another. It's pretty interesting that these are the topics that we have been called to do today, because they usually coincide with things, with each other. And I'm looking at the faith factor of everything, because I think that with all of each one of those things, either there's a lack of, like there's a lack of faith when it comes to the fear and when it comes to the failure. And I also think that with fear, it comes with unbelief. I know that's another word there, that it comes with unbelief, where you don't believe in the success, you don't believe or trust in something or someone. So that's what I think.
Okay, good, good.
Thank
What
you.
stood out to me and what you said was, when there is fear, you are destined for failure. Wow. That's something to really think about.
Mhm.
That's something to really, really, really think about. Like when there's true fear. And it
Well,
stagnates you, not the fear that propels you, but the fear that stagnates you. Because we all
right,
operate
right.
like realistically, we can have all of the faith in the world. And the Bible talks about a mustard seed faith, the size of a mustard seed. So it's not even a whole lot of faith that you need to overcome fear, but we all
Right,
have fears. We don't always like to admit it, but we all do. But it's just that fear we're talking about, this fear that stagnates you, that keeps you
right,
afraid to move forward, not the fear that propels you forward, but the fear that keeps you moving forward. Because believe it or not, some
right.
people, and I think I operate with using the fear to move forward. So like if there's a fear, I
Mhm.
find a way to overcome it. I don't let it be like, okay, I'm not going to do this because I'm afraid, that kind of,
Right.
yeah.
Well, I
That
mean, I
reminds
guess that. Mhm.
Go ahead. I was going to tell
I
a
was
funny
gonna
story.
say, yeah, well, okay, I'll let you tell your story. I was just gonna say how you talked about the fear, how sometimes it can propel you to do something. And I always think about, if you're 30,000 miles in the air in an airplane and you know the airplane is going down, but there's a parachute there, that fear will propel you to pick that parachute up and put it on to save your life. So sometimes fear can be your friend. So, is the situation you have to figure out, is fear your friend, or is fear going to be your foe in that situation?
Yeah, yeah. That's
Now, what's
good.
that story you were going to tell on that?
Well, this was years ago. I was fresh out of college and I was working overnight at a facility for kids, and the kids was rowdy. It was like a shelter slash
Kind of like the
treatment
kids
facility.
today.
They were rowdy, rowdy, rowdy kids, and a lot of the staff members were a little aggressive with them. I'm not an aggressive person. I don't really like fight or anything like that. But and I wasn't trying to fight the kids. Don't get me wrong. But I specifically remember you had to, like, when you step in that arena, whether you're being physically aggressive or you're being verbally aggressive, you have to show the kids that you don't play, or else they'll run all over you.
Hmm.
And so I was kind of like, oh, what am I going to say to these kids? How am I going to,
Hmm.
because I'm fresh out of college and these are teenagers. So I look like I'm not that much older than them, so that I
Right. They
can
don't like that
easily be
authority over
disrespected.
someone who looks. Mhm.
And a lot of the staff members were older than me. And it was one particular staff member, man. If I was a young child, I'd probably be afraid of her. She just was one of those ones that kind of, like, she was kind of bulky and big. And, one of the kids tried me and I stood my ground, but she didn't know on the inside I was like a little nervous about it. I had a little fear, like, oh God, what's
Hmm.
going to happen? Because if one of these kids put their hands on me, it's going to be over with. I ain't going to have no
Hmm.
job. But I stood my ground, and the
Hmm.
kid backed down. And the person who was over me, she made it feel like I had a right. She was like, yeah, you passed the test. Like it was a rites of passage. And I was like, yeah, yeah,
I did,
we
didn't I?
big and bad up in here. I was like, I don't know. That didn't really, it didn't last that way, because I have a way with young people. But just in the beginning, I specifically remember thinking, like, and I still think about that. And that was in 2004. Like, oh my God, what have I gotten myself into? I'm over here having to show out on
Mhm.
these kids, but they ain't mess with me. They didn't mess with me after that. So it's so
Mhm.
important to find different ways to overcome our fears, even in the small instances. And it doesn't have to be
Mhm.
fighting. It doesn't have to be being like aggressive or like physically aggressive or anything like that. I didn't have to cuss nobody out. I had to do none of that. But I made sure I stood my ground so that they know, don't come for me. And
Mm-hmm.
even if I had a little fear that one of them was going to try me, they didn't. They didn't. Not. I was there for
Yeah.
2.5 years, and not one time did anybody buck at me.
It was something
You
that
know.
they enjoyed, that there was a respect that you gained from them, and they didn't
Yeah.
see the fear, you didn't show the fear, and you were determined versus looking, in the face of failure. You were looking in the
You
face of
figure out the game
determination.
plan. Yeah.
Hmm.
So let's look at these
Looking in
quotes.
the face of determination over looking
Facing
in the
it.
face of failure. Hmm.
Exactly. And I like that Nelson Mandela is here because, man, he faced a lot of fears, He faced things that
Oh,
most of us
yes.
won't even touch. We would never
Hmm.
be subjected to some of the things that he faced.
Yeah.
So, but this quote says, I learned that courage was not the absence of fear, but the triumph over it. The brave man is not he who does not feel afraid, but he who conquers that fear.
Okay. All right. Nelson Mandela. Wow, and he definitely did face some fears that is unorthodox fears. Many of us don't want to go to jail for anything
Mm-mm.
mediocre. Right?
Nothing that we
You don't,
didn't do personally. Yeah. Yeah.
right. You
Just
don't
to
see
stand your
many
ground.
activists going to jail for it anymore. Right, right. And
Hmm.
he was there for what, 30 years, almost 30 years. 30
Yeah.
years.
Yeah. Of his life.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And
Um,
came out and was the president. See? Was that a failure because he ended up in jail? Hmm.
he did it with grace for sure
I did it
and
with
fervency.
grace.
Yeah.
That's right. So we can
Um,
talk about that later, what failures look like. Sometimes failure doesn't look like what it, seems like. So
mhm.
that's okay. All right.
So it says the only thing we have to fear is fear itself. We've heard that before. I've never really fully understood that one.
The only thing we have to fear is fear itself. Well, I mean, just a little while ago, I was saying that fear causes your destiny is failure if you fear. But I mean, I guess that's not always the truth. It's not always the truth for every situation. But when we talk about fear and progression and progressing in one's life, fear and having going after your goals, going after whatever it is that you're either called to do, or something that you are compelled to do, something, a problem that you see that needs to be solved, that it might take you through some spider webs or something that you got to get through in order to solve that problem. If you fear that, then that's the thing, that's when I think that the fear is something to fear.
Okay. Never
Mhm,
let fear decide your future. Mm,
mhm.
mm,
Never let fear decide your future. I see that as we have one life to live. We don't want to live, 20 years, later on, and you're like, what if I had done this? You know, then you could be a game changer for somebody's life, or your whole nation's life. And we've got stories beyond stories in the Bible of people who had to conquer fears. I mean, great fears, and you had to go up against governments, principalities, and things like that, and face death if they had not done so. So I look at it like, what happens if you don't do it? You
I
know,
look at it as I have an opportunity to do something great, but I don't take the opportunity because of my fear.
right?
I've seen people do that. They have the opportunity, they don't take the opportunity because they're afraid, of for whatever reason.
Right. And you don't want to, like I said, 25 years from now, you know, God willing that you live that long, you wake up and you're like, man, if I had started that business, you
I had the
know,
opportunity. Yeah.
man, if I
hmm
had married that person,
I had the opportunity.
I
Yeah.
had the opportunity, but I was afraid
I was
things could have
afraid.
been different. And I see that even in my life today, how things just continue to line up because there were certain things that I went after. Um, particularly marriage, businesses, myself, my certification as a massage therapist, I just went for it. And I have to say that over and over and over, time shows up to show me that that was the right decision that I made, that I took a step forward. Because when I decided that I wanted to go to school for it, I literally, right at the moment of decision, I started calling schools. And the very next day, I started visiting schools. And the very next week, I started school, and kept going. And I knew the day that I went to visit the school, they were saying, I said, okay, I'll see you next quarter. And they said, okay, I'll see you next week. And I was like, next quarter. And they said, next quarter starts next week. And I said, well, I got to start school next week because there's going to be that chance if I wait till what I believe next quarter is, which sounds like it might be a month or two away, I may change my mind and not have taken the step to start that endeavor. And that was 17 years ago. And over and over and over in my life, taking that step keeps showing up, showing me that just to take a step out on faith to do that, it has sustained my family, it has helped me meet so many different people in our communities that have been, supportive in a lot of the things that I do. So, sometimes we just got to take that leap and not have the fear, and just do it. Once it comes to your mind, just do it.
Don't put off till tomorrow what you can do today.
Oh, you
Yeah.
didn't put that one up there.
Yeah. You might would be where that yellow box was supposed to have something. So the last one,
Right.
fear, forget everything and run, or face everything and rise. You decide. Yeah.
That's
So
interesting. Forget everything and run, or
mhm.
face everything and rise. I'd like to face
Mhm.
everything and rise. I would
Sometimes you got to
like to
go through
say,
both. Sometimes you
yeah,
forget everything and run and it don't go away, and then you have to face it, You
yeah,
just
that's true.
delay the rising. So
All right.
okay. So what is fear? Let's look at our questions. And this is a good time for you
Okay.
guys to write some things down. What is fear? It's a lot of acronyms. False evidence appearing real. Fear is what we feel. It's a feeling.
Mm-hmm.
It can come in the form of anxiety. It can come in the form of hesitation, reservations, doubt,
Mm-hmm.
ambivalence.
I used the
Um,
word unbelief earlier.
it could be in the
Uh-huh.
word of unbelief. Yeah, fear is
Mm-hmm.
that thing that causes our body to feel uncomfortable about something or uneasy. It's that tightrope walk or that blindfold moment.
You can
It's
physically feel it. You're right. You can
mhm,
physically feel fear in your body. And
mhm,
I imagine it kind of mimics stress, how stress affects our minds and our bodies and our spirits and things. I would imagine that it mimics stress as well.
it's reflective of a natural emotion. I mean, babies fear. They
Yes.
tremble, they get
Yeah.
startled. It progresses into something. A lot of times we can incite fear into people. Like if you like
Mm.
just say a bug, if you're afraid of a bug and you tell your child, you can incite that same fear into your child. But
Hmm.
if you don't mind having a bug, you can find a way to show the child that the bug is gentle. That's what I love about children. They can be easily taught, but they're going to pick up on your fears. If you like, don't touch that spider, ew, they're going to freak out too. Kind of
Just the
thing. But
imagination of what, yeah, thinking
yeah,
about what that spider can do. Now you made them think about it, like and that was something else. I was saying, giving too much power to something, giving too much
absolutely.
power to a person or something that they
Or
don't have to
negative
like.
thought.
Right, because I know there's some kids that will pick spiders up by the legs, or hold tarantulas in their palms. But then you have, like you said, someone that'll go, "Oh, don't do that," and then
Mhm.
eventually they're like, "Oh," they feel it. It becomes a feeling to them. You pass it on, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And now that kid is afraid of spiders too. I know
For
how we got
whatever
on
reason, the
spiders,
no
but
reason. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
right.
How do we
Never, nothing
become,
ever happened.
besides you just saw a spider?
Right. You know, nothing, you've never had an encounter, a negative encounter with a spider. I know most people don't like it. And I know this is probably not the best topic for some of y'all who don't like spiders, and I understand.
Well, we're talking
But
about overcoming your fears.
right, overcoming your fears, because most of us have never had a real encounter. You know, some people have been bitten. My husband was bitten by a brown recluse, so I have an experience. I've seen the effects of that. Now, does that mean that every spider that I see now, I'm supposed to jump out of my skin? No. I just have to be more aware of my surroundings. I know that much. And I don't necessarily, I'm not going to say that I'm going to let that spider live in my domain. It's not going to live with me, you know, because of the very thought that of the capabilities of it. But I'm not going to give that spider the power to paralyze me. I'm not going in that room. Some people will not even go in the house if they know there's a spider in there.
Mm-hmm.
So giving something or someone too much power over you.
Mm-hmm. What types of things are people fearful of?
Hmm.
And I skipped how do we become fearful, because I think we kind of hit on that.
That's
Um,
imaginations. I was going to say
yeah.
imaginations and decisiveness.
Mm-hmm.
And what types of things are people fearful of? Um, Other
You
people.
guys can put it in the chat too, y'all. Make sure y'all put answers in the chat.
That would be really good. I was going to say, because one of my answers is other people.
Yeah, people who intimidate them. You know, I could have been easily
Mm-hmm.
afraid of the kids at the shelter. They're kids though.
Mm-hmm.
You
Mm-hmm.
know, they can be intimidating to somebody, or somebody who's
Yeah.
bigger than you, somebody who, you know, you feel like has more than you, more accomplished than you, somebody you
Mm-hmm.
feel like who has more confidence than you.
More
We can
knowledge. Mm-hmm.
more knowledge or
Wisdom.
understanding. You know, you can be fearful of that person. People fear failure. People fear success. People say I was afraid I was going to fail, so I don't even try. And I know we're going to get
Mm.
that in failure, but
Wow. You're
just
right.
the fear of failure makes you not even want to try.
And I have a big one, love. Some people fear love because they
Yeah,
fear the
yeah.
broken. So, and ultimately, is it the love that they fear, or is it the broken heart? You know,
Probably
and
all
I
the
don't
above.
mean
Yeah.
that the broken heart doesn't necessarily lie with just a lover or someone like that. You know, we've lost loved ones, and so there's a fear, but then there's something that compels us to stay strong, you know, with those loved ones and still have a relationship with them, and still love them. But then there's still that fear of, you know, what's inevitable in life. And so, mm,
Okay. How can we address fear and overcome it?
um, number one, realizing friend or foe. Is this fear your friend or is it a foe? Is this the type, like recognizing what type of fear it is first? You know, is this the type of fear that's going to paralyze me? You know, I like to use that word because we stop. That is, you know, um, even in, like, as a massage therapist, when there's pain, like people fear pain. Um, I know that just in
Mm-hmm.
general, if you fall down, hurt your knee or something, the first thing we do is we hold our breaths. We stop breathing, literally stop breathing. So, you know, realizing, is it friend or foe? Is this fear to help propel me to the next level, into something greater, into something divine? Or is this something that is a foe that can hurt me, that I
Like
need to take a
an
step back
enemy
from?
or a nemesis
Mhm.
or mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And then do I have to continue to fear that? You know, just so realizing what it is that what you're fearing and why you're fearing that.
I was gonna say, yeah, the what and the why is important, because I do kind of like a
Hmm.
self check. Like if I feel something that potentially gives me anxiety, I kind of reassure myself, like, you know, I can do this. or why not me? I have to shift my thinking about it.
Mm.
I can, I
Mhm.
can, I, I, I can say what I need to say. I can,
Oh, that's funny you said that,
yeah.
because I actually have some of that. I have some things that I wrote down for myself. I write things down to try to reassure myself, just in the manner that you were just saying, because one of my callings is evangelism and ministry, and I have it written down. I am called to be an evangelist. I am called to minister. I have what it takes, because when you're called to do something, that there's a belief that you have what it takes. There's something about you that has what it takes, to you have what it takes to love others, to inspire others. I have the strength to push through it, and I
So I
have the
guess,
power.
yeah.
I have
I'm
the
sorry.
power to fulfill. I have the power to fulfill my calling. So pushing through things, knowing that you have the power, knowing that you have what it takes, knowing those things, making the
The
choice
I
to
cans and the I wills versus the I can'ts and I won't,
exactly,
Mm-hmm.
or the what ifs, casting down those imaginations,
Ooh,
thinking.
yeah, been there, done that. The what if? What if this go wrong? What if that go wrong?
Mm-hmm,
What if it
mm-hmm.
do? Okay,
Yeah,
get through it. If it do
push
go
through
wrong,
it.
get through it.
I can push through that. I can,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. We're more than conquerors. If we, sometimes I look at, like, scripture says, we're more than conquerors, and no weapon formed against us shall prosper. And I think that many people look at that like we're talking about, remember, our weapons are not carnal. So when he says that we're more than conquerors and weapons formed against us won't prosper, it doesn't mean that we have weapons of mass destruction that we can, okay, well, I don't like this situation, so I'm just gonna, shoot my way out of it. And there's people, unfortunately, that do that. But we have ways that we can just take our power back. We can, when we were young, it was, chin up, shoulders back, and stand tall, stand strong, and just move forward. Take the first step, you know, and push through it. We can do that.
Keep your head up and your back straight. Focus on the light. It's so amazing. Okay.
That's right. Focus on
So,
the light.
so the challenge is,
Mm,
think of one thing in life that you have been fearful of, write it down. Later, we'll begin to develop steps to overcome that. Okay. Very good. So let's go on to, I think the next one is failure.
mhm.
Failure. I can't stand this word. Not one of my favorite words in vocabulary. The one who falls and gets up is stronger than the one who never tried. Do not fear failure, but rather fear not trying.
There's that fear and failure again.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Mhm. Success is not final. Failure is not fatal. It is the courage to continue that counts. Push
Mm-hmm.
through, like we just said, pushing through.
Failure is not fatal. Wow. Okay. I like that.
Mhm,
Failure
mhm,
is simply the opportunity to begin again, this time more intelligently.
mhm. I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work.
That one was hilarious to me because I'm
I
like,
think that
dang,
is
10,000 ways. I mean, one or two ways, but 10,000? You've been at it too
10,000.
long.
I mean,
Yeah.
how many times did God tell Moses to go back to Pharaoh and say, let his people go?
It wasn't 10,000, but it was close.
It was many times, though. He
Mm.
had to continue to go back and go back. And can you imagine what that would feel like, of the fear and the failure? Like, if God is telling me to do something and this doesn't work, you got to have some serious faith to keep going in
Yeah.
front of Pharaoh and saying, my God
Yeah.
said, let his people go.
Yeah. Yeah. But it was
You know,
necessary, but the
it was
interesting
definitely necessary.
that story came up in a discussion that I was having the other day. And the interesting thing about it is that God told him that he was gonna fail. Like, he didn't say
Mm,
it in those words, but he was like,
right.
"You're not gonna get the answer that you want when you go to Pharaoh." So
He hardened Pharaoh's heart. So he knew
yeah,
ahead of time
yeah.
he wasn't going to
Like,
act right,
I still need you to go do this, but
Hmm.
you don't worry, don't feel like you failing because this is how this is supposed to go. Like,
That's right. That's right.
Right. Just because you fail once doesn't mean you're going to fail at everything. Keep trying, hold on, and always, always, always believe in yourself, because if you don't, then who will, sweetie? The sweetie at the end just got me so tickled.
It
I
does,
heard you and Wes talking.
sweetie.
Mhm. Wes is
Yeah, my
Tiffany's
husband and
husband.
I, yeah, we call each other sweetie, and so much that my son calls us sweetie too now. So yeah, that was
Yeah,
a direct message at my husband and I guess, huh?
sweetie. That was hilarious. Okay. So what is failure? Man, failure, it's hard to acknowledge failure because a lot of times when things don't happen in the way that we want them to, we consider it failure. You run a race and you come in second, you might consider that you failed, but really, did you fail? You ran a race, you got through it.
Right, right.
We consider a lot of things that's failure that's not. I think failure is wrapped up in not trying and giving up.
hmm I say failure is a mindset. Just like you kind of explained it with that you ran the race. It's a mindset because I'll give an example. I know someone who um was one of those teenagers that just playing their whole life out. By the time I'm 25, I want to be
Mm,
married. By the time I'm 27, I want to have my first child. By the time I'm 30,
yeah.
this, that. And those things did not happen. They didn't get the marriage until they were 30 years old. They didn't get the first child till they was 31 or 32 years old. And so is it a failure? If but you still tried. So it's not necessarily a failure, it's just a mindset. And like, what if I'm like you can't, you know, settle, because some people will wait, okay, I didn't get the husband at 25, so I'm going to settle for this person at 26,
Mhm,
27, at 28, 29, or 30. Now, if you just move into something without faith, then you're settling. And
mhm,
then with settling, that's because you have number one, a fear to not succeed. You're in other words, a fear of failure. Okay, I said all of this stuff, and I know I grew up telling everybody in my whole family that this is what I was going to accomplish in life, and it didn't happen that way. So I'm gonna make it happen, you
mhm,
know.
mhm.
And I think that when you make things and you force things to happen, I tell my husband this all the time. I don't like things that are forced. Not whether you're building something, like even like houses. We look at houses. I don't want that house to look forced. You got 10 poles in your living room because you got to hold the ceiling up just to get the frame, because that house looks good on the outside, but it don't hold up on the inside.
Mm.
I don't like forced things, because I think forced things is just like that's what I consider a failure, when you had to
That's
just force
good.
it.
Yeah, yeah. And skipping down to where it says a thought, I feel like a failure. I hear that so much in therapy, so much. How do you feel? I feel like a failure. How you
Hmm.
feel like a failure? Like, what happened that you felt like a failure? And
What's the
usually it's just
image that
things
you see?
didn't, yeah, it's usually like just things, circumstances didn't go the way that you wanted them to or you planned them to. But we don't orchestrate our lives. We don't dictate,
Mhm.
we do things to help push us through and move forward. We
Set
have free
goals.
will. We set goals and we plan, but things can easily not go as planned. That doesn't
hmm
mean it failed. It's just maybe revisit the plan.
It's a shift, and I think that
Hmm.
sometimes when there's a shift in our lives, we definitely don't like to be shifted. We definitely don't
Off
like to be
course.
veered off.
Off course.
Exactly.
Hmm.
and it's
Yeah.
and we never but I think that that also entails a lack of faith as well, because I tend to live my life on the path of faith. Like I said, when I decided to become a massage therapist, it was just off of, you know what, I need to go to school. I got a circumstance that's like, okay, I need to make more money. But then I'm also looking at the type of person that I am. I'm kind of a free spirited person. I can do a 9 to 5 and work in a cubicle and do very well, but I feel free when I'm able to do my work at my own leisure and be able to travel and make decent money and things. And I was one of those people sitting on the couch, and that commercial came by and said, "Hey, you on the couch?" Want a new
Mhm.
career? And I was like, oh yeah, that sounds like me right there, you know. And so because it was where my spirit was, where I was open to already with the traveling, making decent money, and then having such a unique profession, I was open to, my mind was already open to go down a path, and the shift was became easy for me, you know. And instead of looking at things like, you know, by the time I'm 29, I want to be partner in the law firm and all of those types of things, and maybe that the law firm isn't where you're supposed to be in your life. Are we
Yeah,
okay with those shifts if they don't work, you
if
know?
they don't work. Yeah. I
Mhm.
guess that's what destiny does, or predestination. Pre,
Yeah.
hence the word pre. Yeah. I've never
Mhm.
felt like a failure. I felt fear and I felt
Mhm.
defeated, but I've never felt like a failure. So
Well,
I don't relate well to that. And it's just because of my mindset and my belief system in that. It's never been instilled in me that there's a possibility that I could fail. You get what I'm
right.
saying? Yeah.
Yes. And I think that it's failure sometimes includes regret, and
Disappointment.
some people disappointment and regret, like wishing you
Mhm.
had not done certain things. And I can
Mhm.
think of many things in my life that I wish I had not done, things that I wish I, you know, I, part of me says I wish I had not done this, but I don't wish the experience away because it was a lesson behind it.
Mhm. Mhm.
So I can say I wish I shouldn't have done that because of how it looked, because I know that's not in my character. It wasn't becoming of me. But on the flip side, I don't want to say, I don't in my spirit want to say that I regret it, because then I lose the opportunity to have the experience and the learning lesson that helped me become who I am today.
Mhm. There's a quote where a person is overcoming an obstacle, and the question to the person is, well, what if I fail? And then the response is, but what if you fly?
Hmm.
Like,
That's right.
wait a minute, you know what? I never thought of myself as flying, but once I began to think in my mind, yeah, I could fly at this.
Hmm.
Yeah. So addressing failure and overcoming it is repositioning your mindset first, getting it out of your mind that failure is an
Hmm.
option. Failure is not an option.
Right.
Trying things over again and revisiting it, going back to the drawing board, whatever you have to do, knocking on several doors before one opens. Yeah, absolutely. That's life.
Hmm.
But
That's right.
failure doesn't have to be an
And
option.
acceptance, accepting
And
that, okay,
acceptance.
what happened has happened. What am
Mhm.
I going to do with this information now?
Mhm.
How am I going to turn this information into a tool, you know? And for
Mhm.
me, I saw, once I moved into, this is kind of funny, I'm saying all of this because it just keeps taking me back to massage therapy. When I started and I had a particular client who was kind of a tough client in her character, you know, wanted things a certain way, was the kind that's going to go to management if things don't go a certain, you know. And they would look at me like good luck with her kind of thing. And she was young. She was maybe, I would say at that time, maybe 2 or 3 years younger than I was. So not much younger than I was, but when we go in the room, we would begin talking, because I'm a therapeutic massage therapist, not a spa, you know. So I'm helping people with pains and aches and ailments and things like that. And so I was helping her, and she just started talking to me about some things going on in her life. And one day I happened to be at the front desk, and I answered the phone, and it was her calling to set an appointment. And she said, "Hi, Tiffany. I wanted to know if you had any openings because I need to talk." And my first mind was like, I'm a massage therapist. Why would this young lady want to call me to come up here so she can talk to me? She's willing to pay me for an hour's worth of my time as a massage therapist just so she can get that talk in. And that's when I knew at that moment that I was being called into life coaching, you see?
Mhm.
So it's not, you know, with the massage, it was a passion of mine. It wasn't like, I didn't feel like it was my purpose though, because
Mhm.
right there she was showing me how I was moving into my purpose at that time.
Mm-hmm.
And it continued. More people started coming, more people were talking, and I was getting more information. I'm like, okay, this is a thing here.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Mhm, mhm,
Okay. Interesting.
mhm.
Think of one thing in life that you have felt like a failure in, write it down. Later, we will begin to develop the steps to overcome failure. And you've already given some steps, so you kind of already know.
All right. I hope y'all are enjoying this because I definitely am.
Yes, and we got two more to tackle. We got forgiveness, and then we'll get into faith. The practice of forgiveness is our most important contribution to the healing of the world. Oh, thank you, Marianne Williamson. You ain't gonna read one?
Yeah, I'm trying to. Where are we at? Okay, there it is. It's one of the greatest gifts you can give yourself to forgive. Forgive everybody. Let me see if I can say that like my Angelo. It is one of the greatest gifts you can give yourself to forgive. Forgive everybody.
Okay, that was pretty good. Pretty good. Let's see. Now, look, mine is Tyler Perry. It's not an easy journey to get to a place where you forgive people, but it is such a powerful place because it frees you. Amen. I can't
And
do
freedom
Medea.
is fun. We're
Yes,
gonna put two more F's. Freedom is fun.
freedom is fun.
Okay. And I think the first step is to understand that forgiveness does not, what's that word? Ooh,
Exonerate
exonerate the
the perpetrator.
perpetrator. Forgiveness liberates the victim. It's a gift you give yourself.
That's
Mm.
beautiful.
And
That's
said it's a
beautiful. I think
gift.
that's at TD Jakes. That's beautiful.
Is that what they say with those tiny words?
The weak can never forgive. Forgiveness is the attribute of the strong. Mahatma Gandhi.
Mm.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So we haven't even talked about like weak and strong. So there has to be some strength there, or some courage,
Yes.
or some boldness, or
Mm-hmm.
Mm,
Mm-hmm.
okay.
Yes.
Now this is a tough topic right here, and the reason why is because it's not reconciliation; it's forgiveness.
Right. That's a good one. It's not reconciliation, it's forgiveness. Doesn't mean the problem got solved, doesn't mean you got an apology. There was no penance from the other person. It just means that you've given yourself the gift of freeing yourself from the hurt and the harm or whatever it is that the depression, anxiety that the situation is giving you. And
Once I understood forgiveness, it was freeing just to understand it.
mm, that's a good one too.
Because
I
the person didn't have to be present, like it didn't have to be
mhm,
like, I'm sorry, I forgive you. That's what we get
right.
as a baseline to forgiveness, but the person doesn't even have to be present.
Right. They don't have to be present. I've always thought about when God says that we're to forgive one another, and that's in the Lord's Prayer to forgive us as we forgive our debtors.
Hmm.
I always looked at it like that is one of the hardest things that God asks people to do is to forgive based on circumstances.
Hmm.
Some people have been hurt in a way that can follow them for the rest of their lives if they choose to hold on to unforgiveness. And you can't tell that person upside down, inside out, no way, no how that other person will, deserves their forgiveness, you
Mm.
know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's a hard thing to do, but as this quote says that it is a gift. It is a gift to yourself
I
because
was looking at
again,
the
mhm,
I was looking at the definition. It says stop feeling angry or resentful towards someone for an
mhm,
offense, a flaw, or a mistake.
mhm.
Yeah. So it's not, listen, it didn't say, to go and reconcile, stop feeling the anger or resentment towards them. Like
Right.
you have to understand like the level of anger or resentment affects you. It doesn't affect that other person. Like you sitting around angry at somebody is not affecting them, especially if they going on about their business or they don't know.
And they're
It's
not even
how
thinking about
you
it
feel.
anymore.
Yeah. You start
And it,
tiptoeing around other people and skating around things and
oh, what
avoiding
about
things.
if somebody has the same name as the person who wrongs you? You just automatically you don't like them either.
Yeah, you got all this deflection, this displaced, we call it displaced anger, You're angry at people who didn't even do anything to you because
Because
you
they
didn't
look like
forgive
them,
somebody.
sound
Yeah.
like them, did something, or even you don't even like the people who likes that person. It's like a domino effect. It's just I would say it's infective. It infects you. It
Mm-hmm.
literally, and I guess it's
Infectious.
infectual. And so it's like it's again like stress. Stress is a killer, and we
I've
know
had
there's
to, yeah, I'm sorry, I keep telling you off.
no, you're okay. Go ahead.
You keep taking these pauses and I be trying to jump in when you take a pause.
No, you're all right. Go ahead.
Have you ever had to forgive?
I have had to forgive. I
Have you
have had to
ever
forgive.
needed forgiveness?
Yes, I would say yes, but of course, I don't know what for.
Yeah. How
But
many how
yes,
many of you
I
walking around like we don't even know what we did to offend somebody? We need forgiveness. Like I've probably offended people, just didn't realize it, or unintentionally. I really wasn't trying to offend you.
I've done it once to somebody. I'm not gonna say who it was because this is so public, but this person, they had one of those superhero jobs,
Mm-hmm.
and I was young and not as controlled as I am now of myself and my emotions and
Mm-hmm.
everything. And they had an opportunity to be the superhero in front of me, and they failed, and I laughed. I mean, bust out laughing like bad. And I didn't realize until I was I was a full-fledged adult, like really mature in life, when I realized now that was just wrong. And I realized that the outcome of the relationship after I had laughed at that person, I recognize now why. I was like, okay, that was inevitable that we weren't going to continue the relationship,
Mm-hmm.
because like at some point, and that's not the reason it ended, but it was definitely a catalyst to what. And I didn't realize. I was like, oh man, that was just mean. I
Mm-hmm.
shouldn't have laughed at that situation. And so it is a situation where I should have felt like I needed forgiveness, but I didn't recognize it until later on in life.
Mm. Mm. I know that if you're married, you gonna have to forgive. Sorry.
Yeah,
If you're
it's
not
gonna
used to
be.
forgiving over and over and over and over again, and you're gonna have
Mhm,
to be forgiven over and over again. And it don't have to be major issues. It doesn't have to be like infidelity or anything like that. It's
mhm,
marriage. Part of the growth of marriage is forgiveness, continual forgiveness. Like you
mhm.
offended me, but I forgive you. I gotta get past that.
Right.
Yeah. So when we forgive, it's for ourselves. So the question says, why should we forgive? Because it's for you. Like you
It
cannot
is.
walk around harboring resentment and harboring anger and harboring things
Mhm,
that lead to bitterness or lead to just unhealthy lifestyles. Like let that stuff go. Forgive and
mhm.
move on. Like I know
Yeah.
for me, it wasn't the easiest thing to forgive, but when I came to a better understanding of why, it became much easier to some degree. Now, some people, me personally, because of my personality, it is much harder for me to forgive. I have to do it in my own timing. And that's really like God given timing to really process my feelings and how I feel and how, because when I am offended, I stay away and I want to cut you off. I am
Mhm,
a I if I'm not careful, I'm a cut offer. I'm a cut off.
mhm.
It's easy for me to cut a person off.
Yeah, I'll stay
It's
away too.
naturally easy for me to cut somebody off, but I can't do that. Especially being the type of person I am and the type of work I'm doing, the type of field I work in, and the type of family that I have. I can't easily cut people off. But Naturally, I don't have to talk to you anymore. I don't have to see you no more. I don't have to be bothered with you. I'm fine. I can go on about my business, out of sight, out of mind. That's how I can, in
Mm.
Tangela's most purest form, be. But I cannot be like that and grow.
Right.
I
I,
cannot be
I
like that and be a better person.
I would say that I have a touch of that as well. Um, I can out of sight, out of mind a person. But I think that insight, I'm able to um have some form of communication even after something has happened. I'll still speak and say hello and be glad they're doing okay and stuff like that. But I'm not gonna like come on, sit down and listen, catch up. Not gonna do anything extra or anything like that, because I tend to wish or want people to take responsibility for their actions. And if they don't seem like they're going to take responsibility for their actions, then I will my response is always to let them know something happened. And I think because of my personality, which is very engaging and sometimes funny and fun and like that, and then I kind of pull back. I don't cut you off, because I do feel like all human beings are here just trying to get this life right, just in their own walks and things like that. So their actions are just another form of, somebody
Mhm.
having to take responsibility for something they did. Just like I have things that I have to take responsibility for that I did. So I don't totally cut people off, and I have done that in the past, and I actually picked up a phone and I've apologized for that. Um, because I didn't give the opportunity for the person to um have a reconciliation, and
Mhm.
so I did change that mindset. I apologize just because I didn't give the opportunity, not necessarily for um you know I'm not giving them a pass on what they did, though. And I think that phone call is to give them, look, I'm giving you the opportunity to show you I do care about you, or I do love you, or I do have, something, but I just want you to show responsibility for what you did so that we can push this on to the side and move on with this journey in life together.
Mhm. Mhm. The old me um would be like, why? I didn't do anything wrong.
Hmm.
The least of me being wise, like the lesser, like when I didn't have levels of wisdom that I do now, was like,
Hmm.
I don't understand why I have to forgive. I didn't do anything wrong.
Hmm.
But the mature me says, okay, I may have not done anything wrong, but I am easy to offend. I can offend others. I can be that same person.
Hmm.
And so if I need an extended hand from God first and then from people to be forgiven at times for what I do or what I say or how I act, then I
Hmm.
can be open to
Extend
forgiving
the
other
same.
people. Yeah.
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 Well,
So
I want to touch on, I think we kind of skipped over the opposite of forgiveness. Um
not totally. We say resentment.
Oh, we did say resentment. Well, you're right. But I want to add something to that then, which is refusing to receive the teaching moment,
Mm.
refusing to
Mhm.
receive it, refusing to make the choice to receive the closure as well.
Mhm.
Receive the closure, receive the teaching. What's happening here that I can learn from? And this,
That's
I
beyond
think
you. It's
that's
not always
beyond.
just about you.
Right. I don't, and I typically don't think anything is about us particularly. I think that everything that we go through is something to help us grow, but it gives us information that we can share with others, because ultimately that's what our lives are about. It's about helping to make this world a better place. Glorifying God with our lives. We cannot glorify God if we're holding resentment. We can't glorify God if we refuse to learn what it is that we're being taught.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
There's a
how will we make the world a better place if we don't get the information to receive the tools that He's trying to give us to do that?
And that's why in the Lord's Prayer it talks about forgiveness. Like he knew we were going to need that as a tool for living and surviving. There's a
Right.
prominent pastor and leader, and this person's father was very abusive to her, sexually for 14 years. And she talked about in one of her messages how she forgave him. And I was just like, man, if she can forgive something, him for something like that, we can do some forgiveness. Now she wasn't all like hugging him and loving him, but God positioned her to take care of him, be his caregiver at the end of his life. And he ended up apologizing to her and being sorrowful, and it taught her a lesson to look beyond herself. I can't even imagine how hard that was. I don't even want to try to imagine it, but if she can do that,
Well,
then
what's harder? What's harder, forgiving someone or for a person who's wronged someone to have to be forgiven by that person? Like him, knowing how badly he treated her, knowing, in real life, if he knew someone else had done something like that to his loved one, he would be ready to commit murder if, So
yeah.
he did that to someone else. And then that someone else turned around and forgave him. That had to be something that's hard, So now you depend, because when your life depends on that person now, you don't know what they're putting in your food. They don't have to change. If you are to
His
that,
life was dependent on her because she was willing. She didn't have to take care of him.
right.
She could have left him to die.
Right. And he knew that. He knows that, for everything that he had done, he did not deserve for her to turn around and say, I forgive you. And not only do I forgive you, I'm going to show you that there was then and there still is value in your life and who you are. That's some strong message right there.
So how we address forgiveness and overcome it, we have to know who we need to forgive, first of all, who we are holding up resentment, or what was the other way that you put it? It's kind of like unfinished business kind of thing.
Receiving the closure.
Yeah.
Overcoming the symptoms that come after what happened. Overcome the symptoms. What are the symptoms? Fear, hate, indecisiveness, anger, anxiety, depression, all of those things. You have to overcome the symptoms.
You have to overcome symptoms first, and you have to be at a place where you're willing to let go of those feelings that you have, enough for you to have it in your heart to forgive that person.
And then receive the teaching moment.
Receive the teaching moment. So it says, think of one thing in life that you have felt like you lack forgiveness of self or others. Write it down. We didn't even talk about forgiveness of yourself, because sometimes y'all don't forgive yourselves.
Oh yeah. Don't think you deserve things.
Yeah.
You don't deserve the promotion at work. I mean, and in all actuality, sometimes we don't deserve certain things. That's called grace
and mercy.
And mercy. And if God can give us grace and mercy, he gives us new mercies every single day. He gives us new mercies. And every single day we have things that we have to nail to the cross.
When we, the word of God says, Luke 9:23, if oh Lord, I'm messing it up, but will come after me, take up his cross daily. And follow me. Yeah.
Deny yourselves.
There we go.
Take up your cross daily.
Come on.
And follow me. Deny yourself. Take up your cross
daily and follow me. So forgiveness of yourself is looking at I think a lot of times people harbor that guilt or that shame because they know they've done something wrong, but we all do something wrong. We all do things that we are not happy about. But like you said, it's about the lesson you find in it. So forgive yourself, pick yourself up and move forward. Otherwise, you stay in that place that we talked about in the previous slide about failure. You stay in that mindset of failure because you haven't forgiven yourself.
That's right.
Man, we could go on and on with this one right here. This is good.
That is
Uh-oh,
good.
this is good. So now here we go with the faith, and hopefully we can read these cards. When you have faith in God, you don't have to worry about the future. You just know it's all in his hands. You just go to and do your best. Wow.
Faith is believing before what will only make sense after. I like that one too.
Okay. Faith is unseen but felt. Faith is strength when we feel we have none. Faith is hope when all seems lost. Wow.
Faith is taking the first step even when you don't see the whole staircase. Ooh,
Man, that sound like a fall, but that
sound
okay.
like a
Faith
fear situation, a fear thing.
staircase. That staircase, boy, that thing. I don't want to. I can take a step, but not down the staircase. Okay.
Faith
Faith,
over fear.
faith over fear. Faith moves mountains. Doubt creates them.
Hmm.
Oh wow. You know what? I just thought of something earlier. My husband and I, we were out to eat, and we were at a pretty busy restaurant. A lot of people have parties and stuff there. And so a lady, she was blindfolded, and her hand was being held by whoever her loved one is, probably her significant other. So she had somebody in her front and she had somebody in her back guiding her. And she was holding one hand and she kind of had her other hand out just to make sure she didn't bump into anything. And they were walking slow, but she took the challenge. And when she got to the end, into a room, she was in a room full of all of her loved one. It had to be about 20 or 30 people in there. They all surprised her, and that was such a faith walk for her, because she had to walk all the way from the car wherever I don't know how long she was blindfolded, but obviously they had to have pulled up for her, you know what I'm saying, for her
Already
being blindfolded.
blindfolded.
How much faith she had to have in whoever she was trusting for this moment. I know it was an exciting moment for her. She knew it was going to be something good. So maybe that contributed to her faith. But the fact that she allowed her trust to be among somebody else, driving blindfolded, riding in the car blindfolded, all that kind of stuff. Like, I mean, that's a testimony in itself, like imagine if that's us, she's us, and the person who was holding her hand is God. And we get it all the way to the end, and there's a surprise at the end.
That's right.
There's a celebration at the end. So,
what is faith? Complete trust or confidence in someone or something.
the Bible talks about faith. Faith is the evidence of things unseen. I'm messing that up again too.
Yes, you are. Yeah.
Faith is the things hoped for. Come
Y'all
on,
don't know this past Tangi's bedtime. I'm gonna let her figure this one out because it's fun. But I actually chose other definitions of faith because I know that that's the one we go
for. Evidence of things not seen.
Right, the substance of things hoped for, evidence of things not seen. I also have standing on an expectation without evidence of the things.
Standing on expectation. I got another example, and this happened today. Must have been for this. So I was talking to somebody, I can't say who I was talking to, but that person, something major happened in their life, and that was completely unexpected, right? Completely unexpected. It's a huge thing. It's a great thing. It happened in their life last week. Well, I talked to that person last month, and that person said, with faith, I don't know. I'm waiting in expectation for something to happen. I don't know what it is. And so today, that person I recall what they said. They told me what the thing is. I said, well, you just said last month you were waiting in expectation.
Okay.
And they were like, wow, wait a minute. I forgot I said that, kind of thing. Like, what?
Yeah.
That's amazing. Just that it feels suddenly. But you just said waiting in expectation.
Waiting in expectation, but then it still surprises you. Isn't that interesting?
Until you realize, where you've been. Like, I think people think with faith, you can't have a little mixture. And I think we talked about this earlier, of fear. You can't waver now because it's not faith. I will say that. You can't doubt because it's not faith. You got to be sure, but you also got to be sure even through the negative thoughts. Does that make sense?
Yep, it makes sense. Even through negative thoughts, sometimes you have to push them aside and say, nope, I got faith. I already know what this is. I know that's called doubt, because that's what the opposite of faith is. So when you get the negative thoughts, you know that's doubt, and you have to push those things aside, because you can't say out of your mouth or even in your heart, I have faith, and then have the negative thoughts consume you, because they'll consume what you have faith in, what you're having faith for. So
here's the thing, and this is what hit me last year, because I went through a situation. I went through a whole bunch of just, I guess it was just growth. I don't guess. I know it was growth, but I was trying to activate my faith in believing what I felt like God was saying, and what I believed in at the time didn't happen the way that I believed it. And so I questioned and I doubted and I began to challenge my faith. And what I got out of that time in my life more than anything is that faith is not a moment in time, it's a lifestyle. You don't activate your faith today and then turn it off tomorrow.
That's right.
It's a lifestyle. It's a belief system. It's an understanding. You get what I'm saying? Like, it's something you take everywhere you go, in everything that you do. Some things may come easier than others. Absolutely. And
Well,
so go
that
ahead.
question, that second question that says, why do people lack faith and what can be confusing about it? There's something very specific about what you said you had to do with your faith, which is the word activated. You have to activate your faith. And why do people lack faith? I would say because we're humans and that we are subject to our five senses, which is something we don't have to activate. If I put food in my mouth, I immediately taste it. If I put my hand on something, I immediately can feel it. If a sound comes out, I immediately can hear it. If there's something that comes within my peripherals, I can immediately see it. But with faith, it has to be activated. It's an action.
Well, you're not, like you said, it definitely is not useful to your spiritual, to your natural senses. It's definitely useful to your spiritual senses. And you just got to believe. You got to believe and you got to hope.
Right.
You believe and you hope and you work at it. Because again, faith without works is dead. So you don't imagine things to happen by osmosis or by just this miraculous. Like if you wanted a garden in your backyard, you don't hope for the garden without actually going back there and putting the garden there. You got to do the work. But your hope and your faith is that it will grow and it will flourish.
Right. Who goes and digs up all that dirt, sometimes acreage of dirt, planting all of these seeds, covering it up, watering it with the lack of expectation of receiving something from it? Even though you can't see what the seeds are doing, they're down there, they have all of the components that are to create a crop so that you can have a harvest later on. But it begins with your faith that is going to happen. It's all lined up. And usually with things that we have to have faith in, once usually we ask God for things and he says that, without our faith, he's not pleased without our faith. We have to have faith in what he's going to do. And that's because once we pray for it, we have to line ourselves up for the answer, for the blessing, for the harvest, for whatever it is. So once everything is lining up, now we just standing on faith that is going to happen. We don't do all that plowing and sowing seeds and all of that stuff without having some sort of expectation of a harvest.
Now you got to remember, faith is not magic.
Right.
It's not a quick fix. It's not a get rich scheme. It
Mhm.
takes time, it takes effort, it takes patience, it takes
Yep.
understanding, and it takes what we said earlier, getting out of yourself and allowing, if you going back to our other 3 F's, if you have fear, if you experience what you would consider failure, if you lack forgiveness, what will help you overcome them collectively is your faith. You do
Mhm.
something to overcome them, and then you believe that whatever you did in a good way will help you to overcome those and strengthen your faith. You have to believe that if you learn to forgive in your heart, that you will be set free from whatever you lack forgiveness in. You have to
Mhm.
believe that if you keep trying at something that you know should be working, that it will eventually come into fruition. You
That's
have to
right.
believe that you can operate with courage and boldness and overcome whatever fear. It's kind of like the cowardly lion. Everybody can relate to that because if they've seen the Wizard of Oz, you have to believe those things, and the best way to do that is through your faith.
I like to say that faith must be realized. And I'm glad you brought up the Cowardly Lion for those of you who have seen The Wizard of Oz, that he moved through the whole movie with courage while seeking courage as his outcome. And the only problem that he had was the fact that he didn't realize that he had the courage. It must be
Mhm,
realized.
mhm, mhm.
He had it the whole time.
Yeah, yeah. And we build our faith on, number one, our relationship with God, because you can't even have a relationship with Him without faith. It's impossible to please God.
That's right.
So many scriptures that relate to that, but we build our faith on understanding what faith is, not having faith in things that are meaningless. You
Mhm.
have to have faith in the meaningful. So God first, and then faith. There has to be a level of faithfulness, um which is your contribution and commitment to whatever the process is, and so
All
you
right.
build your faith based on that.
Mhm. Well, I also think that we have to take notice of the impossible being made possible around us.
Mhm, mhm,
Every single day, there's things that seem impossible, but if we pay attention to it, you can see how things are being
mhm.
made possible around us. And
Absolutely.
with God, all things are possible.
Yeah.
And so,
This
I
makes
always like to,
me excited. That's
hmm?
excited. Just talking about this, I get excited.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, because I always go as deep as like he created a whole universe. He made people. We live on a planet. We have everything that we need. There's nothing new under the sun. Nothing new drops out of the sky. Rain is not new. It's the same water that flooded the earth. It's the same water. I can go deep on that one, where all this water comes from, the same tears that come out of your eyes that replenishes the earth. And so it's just, with God, all things are possible. And because faith must be realized, it's based off of paying attention to your surroundings, looking at things that seemed impossible once become possible.
Mhm. Mhm. Think of one thing in life that you have felt like you lack faith. Write it down. Next we will begin to develop steps oh, to develop faith. Okay, you're supposed to correct me on that.
I wasn't reading, I'm sorry.
It's okay. Fear, failure, forgiveness, and faith. Next steps. After you've recognized the issue in the categories of fear, failure, and forgiveness, it's important to consider the next steps. Fear, a mindset, and must be overcome by exposure and facing it head on. Exposing that fear. I know you there talking, like getting it out. Like, I
Mhm.
know, I recognize you in my life. I see it.
That's right.
Then we have failure. It's also a mindset and must be accurately defined. If you can accurately define the issue, you can accurately define overcoming it.
That's right.
And then forgiveness. Look at your list of those you lack forgiveness and begin to identify, one, the reason. Number two, how that person has caused you to feel. Number three, how you would like to feel about the person. And number four, if you can forgive this person, how you would benefit from it.
Hmm.
So these are our steps to fear, failure, and forgiveness. And I didn't forget faith, did I?
Oh, well, it's not on here.
Okay, I did. So we got to add the faith. But I think we kind of covered it in the last slide, like how the steps to like overcoming it is to activate your faith. I think it's important to get some healthy resources to kind of help grow your faith. You have to put things to test in order to understand the faith. Like, like a chemist or a scientist, somebody who's trying to build something, as somebody who's into technology, they try it out and see what works. If it doesn't work, they go back to the drawing board. That's how you build your faith. And like what you said earlier, Tiffany, like you have to believe that all things are possible.
All things are possible. I look around, I can sit in a room. I'm looking around a room right now and I can see things that were made possible. I wouldn't know the first thing about how to make a cell phone or a laptop or I wouldn't know where to start with that. And I know some people start out with a drawing. So it comes out of their mind and they put it on a piece of paper and but then all of the little components and things that you add to it. I wouldn't know the first way, but somebody had faith that these things could happen.
There's a song, Barney, you probably know it. But it says there was a hole and in the hole there was my mind's drawing a blank, but it's talking about a tree. So you get the hole in the tree and the tree and the ground and
And the
and the
ground,
green grass
I remember
grows
that.
all around
All
and around. So
around and around, and the green grass grows
Mhm.
all around. I remember
So
that.
it starts from nothing and then makes something. You get what I'm
It makes
saying?
something.
Yeah. And so that's how it feels. Like faith starts from nothing and makes something, or it starts from like one or two resources and it begins to make something out of it. When we
Mhm.
look at the finished product, we don't see the resources that were put into it. We just see the finished product.
The
But
finished product.
yeah. But the person who worked on it behind the scenes, through their fears, through their failures, through their forgiveness or lack of, they see what it took to put those things together.
Yeah, I mean, think about how we went, humanity went from horses to cars, and we went from gas powered cars to now electric powered cars. And
Mm-hmm.
it all started out with somebody's faith, like, okay, this can happen,
Mm-hmm.
then lining themselves up for it, and then having faith that it can come into fruition. So I mean, I threw some tough things out there, that people have done, but I mean, it could be recipes for food that turned into restaurants.
Yeah, yeah. It's the power of a thought,
Hmm.
the power of a thought. So, as we get ready to wrap up, I hope you guys really pull some things from this. We could talk all day on these 4F's, but I think we gave you some really, really good groundwork to begin doing some things to overcome these things. Like, if eradicate that fear, get rid of that failure, that idea of failure, overcome that lack of forgiveness and activate that faith. It's what you need to be able to see your more successes in your lives. What do you have to say? Any last words before we go over our resources and we do our virtual prize?
Um, I don't have a whole lot to say. I think we said a plethora of things during this. I mean, this is a really good one. I think one of our best here, because of today's time. Some people are literally still struggling getting back on their feet from pandemic, which was 3 years ago. Some people are really going, like, it's just now coming to a head of the effects of the pandemic. They kind of skated right on through it. Now at this point in their life, it's like now life is catching up to them. And we went through that was a whole lesson of uncertainty in our lives at that time. So I know there was a whole lot of fear. There were some people that felt failure for the first time because there were jobs that were literally eliminated from companies and people were planning on retiring from or
Mm-hmm.
growing from. So there's people that felt failure. There's the forgiveness part, because for the first time, many of us had to sit in the house with our family members with 24/7 and get to know who they are. And 3 years later now, you still got families that are going through it, trying to figure themselves out. So we got people that have to practice their forgiveness and then their faith. This is a time right now where I know a lot of people have been hearing this. We're in the signs of time. We've been saying that for a long time, but it's getting closer and closer to Christ coming. And faith is a big thing, and it is something that is possible. Let's like really get out here and not just for this podcast, but for life. Let's get into this. Like for real, y'all. Let's really get into this life and operate in a way where we don't have to fear. There's nothing to fear now. What else do we all have to lose in this life? That's my last thoughts there.
That's your last thought. Okay, that's good stuff. Resources for your journey. We have some recommended books: 12 Rules for Life by Jordan Peterson, Don't Drop the Mic by T.D. Jakes, Hello Tomorrow by Cindy Trim, and The Shift by Keon Henderson. Then we have some recommended YouTube videos. We have Crazy Faith. We have the links here. We'll try to put them in the chat if we can figure that part out. Crazy Faith. Then we have Tackle the Text, How to Forgive, Living with Fear and Walking by Faith, and Just Enough Faith. So Crazy Faith is Mike Todd. I don't know who Tackle the
Pastor
Text.
Michael.
How to
Tackle the
Forgive.
Text. That is I think T.D. Jakes.
It wasn't him. He was Living with Fear and Walking by Faith, and then Just Enough Faith is Sarah Jakes. So maybe Keon Henderson or somebody else.
Yes, that was Keon Henderson. Yes.
Okay. Okay. So hopefully we can get these YouTube videos to you guys in the.
And yes, I've watched these videos and have read these books. So these are not just some things we're throwing out there to you guys.
Okay.
These are some helpful resources that have helped us and taught us. Well, me, I don't know the Tangies. I think you probably did some of this stuff, but not all of it.
Yay! Virtual prize. So I was gonna go with the virtual prize in another direction, but I wanted to keep the same trend from the first virtual prize. I want to see who was listening. So the first person, not including the winner from the previous virtual prize, but somebody new, to put the 4F's in the chat, you will win this virtual prize. What are the 4F's that we went over in this particular workshop? Put it in the chat, and congratulations to the winner.
Or should I do this?
All right, thank you. We have come to the end of this workshop. We welcome your feedback and ask any questions you have in the chat. Please view our website and follow us on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook for more information and future workshops. iRepresentLife.com, our YouTube at Life on Purpose LLC, our IG at Life_on-Purpose, and Facebook. That is that / Life on Purpose LLC. We appreciate you guys joining us on this Saturday afternoon. Even though we are pre-recorded, we are still headed into the future with this.
And we're right here with you guys in the chat.
On the live chat.
We're here with y'all.
We are here. We are here. So look out for our future workshops. Please please share with somebody. Allow somebody else to have the opportunity to have some information that can help them get their lives together. We are looking forward to hopefully pulling out another workshop in May or June, but of course on our website and on our social media, we will keep you guys updated.
All right. Hey, y'all. I got 2 mottos. I know Tangi hadn't heard this one in a long time. Number 1, let me coach you. If you need some coaching, let me coach you. You can also go on those same platforms so that you can find out how you can get counseling and coaching by Tiffany DeWalt, certified Christian life coach, and also Tangela Morris, which is a licensed professional counselor. And we like to tag team. So if you have some counseling needs and coaching needs, hit us up get on the website and sign up. We'll give you a call, email, whatever. Just connect with us so that we can do the other motto, which is get this life together.
Yes. All right. Make it a great day. Make it a great week. Peace.
Love y'all.